Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to be showing you how to do 4 different things for Fallout 4 to improve it for the PC version. Those 4 things are going to be changing your field of view, turning off the mouse acceleration. Also, we're going to be checking out how to fix the vertical and horizontal mouse move difference, because by default, your mouse moves a little faster left and right in the game than it does up and down, and that's because of some scaling problem that it has. Before, I was having problems with my graphics settings. When I would run the Fallout 4 launcher, my graphics settings wouldn't save or anything. So I'll also show you how to remedy that if you were having the same problem as me. So let's get started. There's 4 different files we're going to be looking at today that are going to do pretty much everything. So first off, 2 of the files are going to be found in this directory. It's going to be in users under whatever your username is on your computer, documents, my games, Fallout 4. And this is where it should be, otherwise you're going to have to do some digging on your computer. And the 2 files we're going to be looking at on here are the Fallout 4 prefs.ini and the Fallout 4.ini. And then the 2 other files we're going to be looking at are in a different directory on your computer. Now, this is dependent on where you have your Fallout 4 installed, and then this is going to be your Fallout 4 main directory. The 2 files we're going to be looking at in here will be this Fallout 4 default ini, as well as inside this Fallout 4 folder, the Fallout 4 prefs.ini. So now that we got our 4 files figured out, let me show you how to start editing them. So step 1, let's fix that field of view problem, because right now it's all consoled up. It's got terrible shallow field of view, and it's a little uncomfortable when you're sitting close to your computer. So when we open up these 2 files in this directory, if you recall, your Fallout 4 ini, your Fallout 4 prefs, those 2, and you'll want to open them both up, and you'll want to add these 2 lines under display. You don't need to look for these lines. You can actually find field of view somewhere within this file. Don't worry about that. You want to add these 2 lines under display, and you want to add them both under display in both files. Now, these 2 different parameters that we added will be your first person's field of view. So when you're in first person mode, that's the field of view you see. And the top one will be when you're in third person, that's the field of view you'll see. So right now I have mine set to 90 and 100. I prefer having 90 degrees for my first person games, but when I set mine to 90 degrees, it still felt a little claustrophobic and uncomfortable to look at, so 100 felt more like 90 to me. And I left my third person at 90 because it felt fine. So what you're going to want to do is I'll copy these and put them in the description, so you can just Control-C and Control-V and paste it into your own document. And then you're going to want to save these files once you add these 2 lines, and make sure you add them to both of the files that we opened, the Fallout 4 prefs and the Fallout 4 ini. You can try it like that and then mess around all you want. You're going to want to make sure you save them, both of them, and then you can go ahead and close those. Next, we want to go to the other 2 files that were in a different directory, specifically in the Fallout 4's main directory. We're going to want to go to the Fallout 4 default ini, and in here we want to do the exact same thing we did before, which is copy and paste these 2 lines under display in your Fallout 4 default ini. Just make sure they're all the same parameter, because that's what we want. We want it to be, these 2 don't have to be the same, but you want these numbers to be consistent across the different files. So that's good to go. We have it saved. And then you want to go to your Fallout 4 folder right here, and go to your Fallout 4 preferences. In here you want to add those 2 lines as well with the same numbers that you were putting in every other file. Obviously you want this under display because that's where we've been doing it in all the other files, and you want to have that saved, and then you can close that. When you run Fallout 4, your field of view will reflect what you put in those files. So here we are, we're in Fallout. Now your field of view may still be looking kind of janky. So what you're going to want to do is go hit the tilde key, which is that little squiggly bracket in the top left under escape. And then you're going to want to type in refresh ini, which will refresh and reload the parameters we have inside the ini files. And then for you, most likely you'll see your screen kind of jump, but I already had those settings set, so it didn't really change. And then one other thing to note is before in Skyrim, you could type in FOV and then set it to whatever you want, like 90, and that would usually change your field of view. But instead in this, what it does is it changes the size of your weapon models and whatnot, because once you go to refresh ini, it'll fix your field of view and then your models will be the same size. They won't change. So for example, you'll see this, okay? This is a good way to understand it. We hit tab. Look at the size of my Pip-Boy. Right now you can see it covers up, you know, this much of the screen. Let's say a third. Now I want to close that. Let's set field of view to 110. Okay. It zoomed in a little, so we want to type in refresh ini, because we're actually not changing the field of view. We're changing the field of view of the models. So now when I hit my Pip-Boy, look at that. It's tiny. It takes up a small part of the screen. But it does bring down the size of your weapon models, so it can be a trade-off. You can decide, like this minigun was big and would take up most of the screen, but now it's a little bit smaller. So you can do that, mess around with that. But basically, when you type in refresh ini, it'll keep updating your field of view, because really all that's going to stay the same is the size of your weapon model and hands and everything. And so long as you hit refresh ini, your field of view of the actual screen and game space will be whatever you set it to be inside of the ini file. So we've got the field of view figured out, so let's move on to the next thing on the list. Also, it's actually important to note that you'll want to make a new save game once you have different settings. Otherwise, it may not save. So make sure you have your game saved. I didn't save it because it's set to the same settings that I want. Next on our list is we want to turn off mouse acceleration. How we do that is we're going to want to look at two of the files we have. The first one being the Fallout 4 ini found in our documents, my games, Fallout 4. So that would be this file. This line under display. We're going to want to add bMouseAcceleration. Spell that correctly. It's important. And we want to set it to 0. So now we want to save that file. There's actually one other file we need to update, and that file is going to be our Fallout 4 preferences ini, which is located right here in our Fallout 4 directory where the game is installed, and then inside the Fallout 4 folder, and then right here. And we'll want to have this line as well that I already have added. bMouseAcceleration equals 0. And then you want that saved. And when you load up the game, it should fix mouse acceleration. Okay, next up on our list is fixing the uneven mouse speed based on horizontal versus vertical movement. Basically what that means is in the game, when you move your mouse left and right, it moves faster because it's trying to move the same amount of distance over the same time when you're actually traveling more distance over the same time, which would cause it to be faster. Because just take the height of your oh shit. Fuck this explanation. This isn't gonna be shit. So the file we want to open up is going to be our Fallout 4 ini located in Documents, My Games, Fallout 4. And what we're going to want to do is scroll down to fMouseHeadingYScale. See if we can find that. Okay, so here we are. Scrolled down a little bit. Right here under Controls is the parameter fMouseHeadingYScale. Basically, your number's probably going to be different than mine. It's probably going to be 0.021. If you have a 16 by 9 monitor, you're going to want to put in 0.03738. I actually have other parameters for people who have different ratio monitors. I'll post all of those different numbers in the description of this video. And the last thing is a problem I was having. When I launched my game in the launcher, I would have this right here. We'd go to options and I would set my settings to whatever I wanted them to be. Just a little inside tip, God rays can be quite taxing. Ambient occlusion, that's always a big hitter on frames, so I have that turned off. And I would set those settings, I would hit OK, and then I'd open it up again, and I'd click advanced, and I'd look at them, and they'd change and they go back to how they were before. They go back to their default. The fix to that was actually going over to my Fallout 4 preferences that you want to make sure when you right click on it and hit properties that it doesn't say read only. And you can change that by just clicking it and you hit apply. The reason I ran into that problem was before I was told to make sure I set these to read only so that the game isn't changing them, which I do prefer to do on these two files right here. I like to keep them set to read only so the game doesn't change them or something, you know, because we're setting that field of view in the game, but I'm afraid that that'll change something. So I like to keep these two to read only so that our settings aren't being messed with by the game and they don't get replaced or something if it detects a change. I like to keep those two to read only. So yeah, those are all 4 of the problems that we have fixed now in Fallout 4. I'm going to link in the description to the Steam community article that actually showed me how to do all of this, and it'll most likely update if things change. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.